Greetings, Masandawana. Greetings, lovers of the beautiful game. We are back with another installment of the Yellow Corner, bringing you the preview of Mamelodi Sundowns versus Ahly, or Ahly versus Mamelodi Sundowns in the CAF Champions League semi-final second leg. My name is Tabiso Aizo Mutlung, for those who are watching for the very first time. And today I'm joined by someone that if you really, really love African football, you should definitely know, man. You should know him from TikTok, from Twitter, and most importantly, YouTube, man. I'm joined by Dennis from Our African Football. Just that name, Our African Football, man. Please check out his account on YouTube and do subscribe. I promise you, you will definitely enjoy the content that he produces, and at Our African Footy on all social media platforms. Dennis, welcome to the Yellow Corner, my brother.
Thank you very much, Sabi. So, I've been impressed with, the kind of what you guys are doing in terms of pushing your club even online. Um, I don't know. I think when it comes to South Africa, um, from what I see, what I've been seeing online, I think specifically YouTube, I think I see a lot of Sundowns channels online. So it looks like it's a club that really has the passion to push, the drive to push in terms of social media. YouTube creates fan-based channels on YouTube, push your club. And I think it's impressive. This is how we build football together on the continent when we all are having conversations amongst ourselves and then pushing our clubs. It's wonderful. And you're doing amazing work, the Yellow Corner.
No, thank you very much, man. Thank you very much. From Sundowns, it's us, the Yellow Corner. We just do Mamelodi Sundowns Football Club match previews, and then we have our brothers from Masandawana Fan Vlog. We actually started when we started YouTube. We started working with them. They do match reviews and fan engagement, and press conferences as well. So yeah, man, we are good friends with the guys from Masandawana Fan Vlog, man. Eh? But before we go deeper, Dennis, we're starting this preview on a very sad note here in South Africa. A club in the National First Division, Durban City, formerly known as Maritzburg United, lost one of their players last night, a player by the name of Sinamandla Escora Zondi. He lost his life last night, man. So just want to pass our deepest condolences to his club, his teammates, the management, his family and friends, and everyone who loved him. And may the mighty Lord be with them and give them strength through these difficult times, man. Just a sad way to start this preview, man. But let's get on to it, man. What did you make of Sundowns' performance in the first leg?
I think it was a game of football. Two teams came to play football. Ahly came to play football. Sundowns came to play football. And personally for me, watching that first leg, especially in that first half, I think Sundowns were they were literally in control of the game, especially from the different zones of the game. So if you take from defense to midfield, it was all Sundowns in control of the game. But it felt like the problem for the Sundowns team was how to really break Ahly in the final third. That was where the problem actually was, because at different moments in the game, you could see a player like Marcelo Allende maybe drop a shoulder, then he takes out maybe three Ahly players just with a drop of a shoulder. Three players of Ahly are taken out, and then he's driving up poaching goal. But then when they reach the final third, what do you do with the ball? What's the final product of the ball? And then that was the main problem for Sundowns in that first leg, from my perspective, which I thought was probably the main reason why the team was unable to really create a lot of chances in the game. And if I'm a Sundowns fan watching that first leg, I think I should be worried, because there's also the second leg coming up, which is in Cairo, which you will not get the kind of atmosphere you got in at the Loftus West Stadium. So it was an okay game, but at least the good news is you didn't concede, which is the best when you're playing at home, that you don't concede. That is always sort of the best thing to you want to see.
No, man, I share the same sentiments as you. I was honestly really disappointed with our performance on Saturday, man. I went to the stadium with high hopes, I knew it would be a difficult game, but I thought we'd at least get a goal, I actually predicted we'd win 1-0 or 1-0 or 2-0 if I'm not mistaken, But we had all the ball possession. I think it was 73%, but 0 shots at goal. So we had nothing to show for it in that game, And what you said about if you're a Sundowns fan, you'd be worried about the fact that we didn't create. I agree with that, because it feels like we've gone back to exactly where we were at this time last year. If you remember well, at this stage last season in the knockout stages, we didn't score a single goal in the knockout stages, and in the last 3 games of the knockout stages, we've only scored just 1 goal. So yeah, man, it really is worrying that we seem to have lost our creative spark. We're not threatening at all. But hopefully tables will turn when we get to Cairo. I don't know how, but I just hope that tables will turn when we get to Cairo.
Yeah, I'm sure that is the hope.
Yeah. We now have a new coach, new for a lack of a better word, in Miguel Cardoso. What have you made of him since he arrived at Sundowns?
So, Miguel Cardoso, I think went from its time for Esperance. For me, how I view him is I view him as the kind of coach who is able to sort of map a strategy. I view him as a strategist. He's not really your fancy football playing coach who will give you your 4 goals, 5 goals, create maybe 10 chances, possess the ball. Because in the past, I think the last season with Rulani was okay. The last season with Rulani was last season, right? 2 seasons ago, in the semi-final when he lost to Wydad.
We done 2-2
second game in Pretoria. Yes, that second game in Pretoria. Sundowns would have won that game by 6-2, 7-2. They created a lot. I remember some of them was literally, I think there was even an open goal for, I think, Shalulele or so. So this is a club who has been at a zone where they've been in games where they've created a lot of chances, but they still go out of the competition. And I view this man, Cardoso, as a strategist. He maps the perfect strategy for the perfect game. Quite unfortunate, the game against Ahly, the team was not really able to express themselves in attack. But I think overall, the team was quite comfortable. If you check in terms of how balanced the team was, they were a bit comfortable in their approach. They limited Ahly to creating their chances outside of the penalty box, even though Sundowns was the team attacking. If you check a lot of the chances Ahly got, it was from outside the penalty box. The only ones they got inside the penalty box were the offside goals they scored, which was, I think, was the strategy of the coach. So this is a man who he knows how to map a strategy for the game. And as you mentioned, that Sundowns has scored only 1 goal in the last 3 games. They haven't considered 2 in the last 3 games. So, and I think at this point in the game, for me personally, I'll prefer a strategy, having a good strategy, having a good approach, knowing that, okay, I'll play this game without conceding. Then we have a plan or a way to score. I'll prefer something like that as compared to creating 7 chances, creating 8 chances, then at the end you still goal out. I think Cardoso probably gives a different variance. He gives you a different option, and I'm sure with him, something can happen. Something can happen.
Yeah, man, you're giving me hope, man. On Saturday or Sunday, I watched your video where you said we might need a miracle, but now you're giving me hope going into this game. But with me, I agree with you in terms of Cardoso, man. I think tactically he's very, very sound, And the other thing that I like about him is his in-game man management. I've been really, really impressed. And we'll definitely have a strategy going into this game. And ever since he got to Sundowns, a lot of the times he's been saying all the right things, when you listen to him in press conferences and stuff like that. It's just that recently he said something that didn't sit well with the fan base at all after the game against Ahly, where he said it's so sad to see such a beautiful stadium almost empty. I was there, Dennis, and the stadium was far from empty. The empty parts were only the VIP, the private VIP suites, as well as the space between the Ahly and the Sundowns fans. And we know why there was so much space in between the fan bases. So, hey, man, I think he need to be careful of what he says, because Sundowns fans are very emotional when it comes to the club,
you know one thing. I also think that Cardoso was coming from Esperance in Tunisia.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
fun culture you get in Tunisia, where the fans it looks like the club is for them. They are fully
yeah.
committed to the club. Even when
It's
when
their
you have,
life.
I'm in Ghana, and I remember a time Ali came to play in Ghana here. They played medium. I think it was last season, and
Yes, I remember that.
they
Yes.
had about I think 15 fans in the stadium. The 15 fans of Ali were more vociferous. They were more loud than the fans of Midiama in the stadium, who were way more. So, the North Africans give you a different variance in terms of support base. You feel the passion, you feel the zeal, you feel like everyone
Mm.
coming to the stadium is literally pushing for the game, which also creates sort of intimidating atmosphere for opponents. And I think
Yeah.
maybe he couldn't really communicate in that vein that he wanted a stadium where everyone will be in unison to sort of
Mm.
push behind the team in unison in the game. I think maybe he didn't really communicate his words well in that vein. But regardless, I think it was really a packed stadium. I saw from the TV myself. I mean, it was really packed, especially from I think from the 15th minute going. At the start of the game, the team was
Yeah.
not really all that full, but as the game progressed, people joined in, and then the numbers were like really impressive.
Yeah, you're actually right. Maybe his message got lost in translation. Because you know how passionate the North African guys are.
Yeah.
They united the whole stadium. Whereas with us, we normally have a section that we call scoop that stands behind the opposition bench, and that's where the singing comes from the most. And I liked a tweet by a Sundowns fan by the name of Kabza, who said, Sundowns fans, I'll actually put it up. He mentioned that we are one fan base that never ask for substitutions. We try and sing and cheer for the team, even after heartbreak, that game that you mentioned against Wydad where we played 2-2, man, it was the most heartbreaking day for me ever since I started supporting Sundowns. The way we got knocked out because everyone thought we were winning that Champions League, but we stood at the end of the game and sang for the players, so maybe, like you said, his message probably got lost in translation. Is 0-0 in the first leg at home as bad as it is made out to be, Dennis? Because look at, after I went to the Pirates game at the end of the Sundowns game, I drove to the Pirates game to watch them against Pyramids, And after the Pirates game, I was with my partner and I said to her, she supports Pirates, and I said to her, we must forget about the final. We both not going to the final, and we are despondent, But I reflected from Monday, and I thought, Nil at home is not a good result, but it's not a terrible result at the same time because a goal, an away goal, changes the whole complexion of the tie, and that's how I feel right now. That as much as they are confident going into this game, but that fear at the back of their head that should Sundowns score one goal, we need to score two goals. What do you say?
Yeah, and there is this one thing that I always say when it comes to home and away ties that if I'm a coach, I'll prefer, and then I play away first. I'll prefer to lose by 2 goals to 1 in a way. I'll prefer. That's my personal preference. If I was a coach, I prefer to lose by 2 goals to 1 than to play a
Yeah.
goalless draw. Because playing a goalless draw, what it means is that yes, you got a draw away, but then you didn't score. You didn't win the
Yep.
game. You didn't get any away goal. That means these are two teams who are equally balanced, who are fairly balanced in terms of strength. In Africa here, the feeling is that once you play a draw away, once you play a draw away, you should win at home. That is the feeling. So once you play a draw at home, even psychologically in your head, you feel like, we've done so well. Like we've done so good. Going into the second leg at home, we have our fans behind us. We must win for sure. Like a win is guaranteed. But then you're forgetting you didn't score and away goal. And as you rightfully said, even in the game against Wydad, you remember the circumstances with which Sundowns lost that game. It was a last minute
Yep.
goal. You can be
Yep.
leading by 1 goal to 0, but it's not safe.
Mhm.
If you play 0
Mhm.
draw at home, away, you can be leading by 1 goal to 0, but it's not safe because any goal at all from the opponents can knock you out very simple. And
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of times teams go and play a 0-0 away and then come and mess up at home. Even in Ghana here, I think, and the last time Asante Kotoko, one of the biggest teams in Ghana. The last time they played in the Champions League, they got a draw away. It was in the qualifying stage. They got a draw away, and everyone was so happy that finally they were going to make it to the group stage. They came back at home and they messed up at home. So it really gives you a false sense of security that I've gotten a draw away. That means I must win at home. Whereas if you had lost by, let's say, 2 goals to 1 away, going into the second leg, you know that I must win it. It's for sure. I must win it. And here in this game, between Sundowns and Ahly, the quality between the two teams is not really that much. If you are being honest, the quality is not that much. It's there are two teams who have fairly equal quality. Both teams have very quality number of players. So this is not a game that you can say Ahly are just going to bulldoze over Sundowns. It's going to be a competitive game, and then with both teams not having any advantage, it's slightly imbalanced. Let me say, it's slightly imbalanced in terms of
saying the balance.
Yeah.
You know, I know this preview is about Sundowns and Ahly. You mentioned Asante Kotoko. What's happened to Ghanaian football? Why don't we see Ghanaian teams progressing to the latter stages of the Champions League? Because growing up, man, as a kid, I used to see these teams coming to South Africa to play in the Vodacom Challenge against Pirates and Chiefs, you know, and I knew about them, you know, but right now, my brother who comes up after me, the last one, I'm sure he doesn't know much about Ghanaian teams. You know, what's happened to football in your country?
So man, it's really something else. Even if you go not so far back, but just as little back as maybe 6 years ago in 2019. So Asante Kotoko was playing the Confederations Cup. Back then, they were sort of trying to revive themselves. They had lost the glory, I think, since 2008. So they're trying to revive themselves. And in that year, I remember they played in the Confederations Cup 2016. I think that was the last time I saw Kotoko play in Africa, where they had like a fully packed stadium. Like, because Kotoko is like your Kaiser Chiefs in South Africa. Their team, when they start to play well, especially in the region where they are in, almost everything sort of, you can feel it. You can feel it in the air. So they were playing good in that time. They brought in a couple of quality players into the team. I remember there was this guy, Kwame Bonsu, who was brought from Sweden to come and play in Kotoko. He later even went to play for Esperance. So they brought in a lot of quality players in 2019, did okay in the Confederations Cup. The next year, they went to the Champions League last stage, at the final stage. They were playing against Etoile Sahel from Tunisia. They won the first leg by 2 goals to 0. So we were also happy that finally Kotoko is going back to playing the Champions League, only to go and play the second leg in Tunisia, and they lost by 3 goals to 0. Everybody was shocked because they have the quality. They could have won that game against against Etoile by 4 or 5 goals, but then they made a return and then they messed up, and that seemed to be the end of the team, because after that game, a lot of the players who they had kept left, because I mean it was not sustainable to sort of bring in big players, keep them, pay them huge salaries, and then the team is failing to make it beyond. So the players left. The following season, they went to play against, I think it was Ahly in the Champions League, and that was the COVID year, the year where, and you know, during the COVID year, something happened. Teams could sort of take out players and say they are positive for COVID. So that year, when Kotoko went to play against Ahly in Sudan, Ahly took out, I think, about half of the Kotoko team. They said they were positive for COVID. So half of them were taken out. In the end, they had about only 7 players and they couldn't play. So Ahly got an automatic qualification into the Champions League that year. And since then, they've really not been able to push that, because, you know, to compete at that level, you need quality players. You need to keep your best players. And when you're not really getting enough, you're not playing to reach maybe the Champions League, which will push the fans to come to the stadium a lot to support the team, which also brings in sponsors and brings in money. The team will suffer financially, and then you can't really keep the best to sort of perform. And even this season, they had one man, Kwame Opoku. I was reading reports that he was coming to South Africa.
Is it?
I was reading reports that he was coming to join one of the teams in South Africa. So, I mean, that's been the story. Not being able to really keep the quality players, and I mean, losing quality every season.
Yeah, I know. You can't sustain a team when you lose all your best players each and every season. But I really hope that they get revived and they come back to competing against the big boys of the African continent, man. Going back to the game, man. Who is more under pressure going into the second leg? Because I would like to believe that Ahly is more under pressure because of their pedigree and the expectation from their fan base. At Ahly, I think Ahly fans think it's their God-given right to be in the Champions League final and win the Champions League, And more so when you look at the fact that some people look at the result that Loftus and here in South Africa and think, nah, that was a positive result by Ahly. It should make their job easier going into the second leg, And as well as the fact that Sundowns is looking blunt in front of goal, they are not as threatening as, if we're being honest, as they have been throughout the season. So I think maybe Ahly is more under pressure because expectation is that Ahly will progress to the final. Your thoughts?
Well, I think both teams, both Sundowns and Ahly, are really under pressure. For me,
Yeah.
if I made a preview of the first leg, and I was like, this game is literally a season-defining game for both clubs, because even for Sundowns, you just went out of the Nedbank Cup to Kaiser Chiefs
Yes.
in the league. In the league, Sundowns, I think they have 9 points difference. But then, if you take out the outstanding games for Pirates, should Pirates win, hypothetically, should they win all those outstanding games? It's just 3 points. So the league is not
10
won.
points.
So if you go out of the Nedbank Cup and the next game you go out of the Champions League, this is going to hurt Sundowns also in the league, because this football is a game of psychology.
Psychology,
Psychologically,
yeah.
the players could be demoralized, yes, and it could also hurt Sundowns in the league. I think it's also a similar story for Ahly, where they have the Club World Cup also coming up. They have the league they are chasing to try and win it, and also, as you mentioned, the Champions League. And for Ahly, you can't go a season where you don't win the league, you don't win the Champions League, you don't win any trophy. It's not normal. It's not normal, as you mentioned. It's their birthright. They feel it's their birthright to win trophy. So
Mm.
they want to at least win something this season. But I think one thing also that makes a difference for Ahly is, in terms of their expectations, is that going into this season, quite a number of players had left the team either on loan, uh, and they're expected to have the stronger team after the Champions League, after the season. So a player like Aliou Deng is expected to come back. They have a man like Hamdi Fatih who is expected to come back into the team. They are bringing a couple of other players to strengthen the team. So this is not really your strong Ali side who you think you say is your 100% strong Ali team. There are stronger players coming to beef up the team. So even though there is pressure, I'm sure pressure comes with sort of measuring your expectations, knowing that this is not really the best team I have as of now. I have stronger players coming in. So for me, both teams are under pressure. Both teams must win this game, and it's not negotiable for either of these two teams.
That's true, man. That's true. As much as we thinking it's going to be difficult for Sundowns, but the expectation is that we need to win. We haven't. The last time we won this trophy was in 2016, And if there's one trophy that we are desperate to win as Sundowns supporters, is the CAF Champions League, man. A lot of Sundowns supporters go into this game very worried and maybe to a certain extent despondent. They don't give the team a chance to win. Please talk to them and maybe highlight things that you think Sundowns can do to give a Sundowns supporter who's watching the yellow corner hope going into this game.
I was almost coming to kill their hope, but let me give them hope. Let me give them hope. So, in the first leg, Ali came with a defensive approach. They played 5 players, centre backs, 5 players at the back, played about 3 players in the middle, who were all defensive-minded players. So the approach was to not lose the game, and that's a typical North African team when they play away, to not concede, not to lose. But the setup will be different in Cairo, and I'm sure I'm not so sure they'll not play 5 centre backs in Cairo. I'm so sure they'll not play 8 defensive-minded players in Cairo, which will mean the game will be a much more open, much more flowing. And one bright side for Sundowns in the game against Ali was the return of Stefan Zwane. I think he was excellent. His presence alone on the pitch gives sort of an elevated boost to the other players on the team that at least now we have our leader, we have our captain back on the pitch, fit to play. Also, if you look at his kind of play, his intelligence, especially in attack, he allows the ball to flow into areas that you wouldn't even see when you're watching. When you're watching a game on TV, you try to see possible passing options when a player receives a ball. But suddenly, when he makes a pass that you wouldn't even see that pass coming. So he adds a bit of touch, a bit of flavor to the early attack, and then combining that with playing against Ahly, who will not be defensive in that game, who will be expected to be a lot more open to also come out to play. I think it will give a better chance to Sundowns creating their chances in that game against Ahly. But then as well, in as much as Ahly will not be defensively minded in that game, that means they'll be a lot more offensive. And Ahly has the quality. They have the quality to break any team down on the continent in terms of offensive prowess. And I think that would be one of the main areas that Sundowns really have to work on, how to really deny Ahly the quality chances. Because playing in Cairo, I'm sure Ahly will get at least 2 or 3 quality chances, not just any chances. At least your 2 or your 3 quality chances, it will come. So you need your players to step up. You need Williams to have his best day possible. You need Kekana, Lebusa, if he's playing, to have the best day possible. You need, even in midfield, Mokwena, Ayende, Dean Adams, if he's starting, to have their best day possible, to sort of stop the early transitions, stop the early attacks, because they're going to have their moments. They have their fans behind them, maybe 50, 60, or 70,000 fans behind them. It's going to be so loud. They're going to be whistle at every time Sundowns hold possession of the ball. It's going to happen. So for me, going into this game, I don't think it's a done deal yet to go for Ahly. I don't think it's a done deal yet for Sundowns. I think both teams have an equal chance of advancing to the final. Both teams are going to get their chances to progress to the final, but then it's probably going to come down to who really takes those chances. Who is going to be much more efficient in taking their chances, because on that day, I'm sure both teams will create their chances.
Absolutely agree with you, man. The reason I didn't want you to take the hope away is because of what you said on that video that you did on for your TikTok about maybe we might need a miracle, about how every time we draw, we fail to win the first leg. Yeah. What happens on the second leg? So,
yeah, man, and yeah. you know one thing about that particular thing. I think it's a matter of the pressure. When you win your first leg game, some sort of pressure you get relieved of some kind of pressure, because now you don't have to win the second leg in order to qualify. But then if you fail to win the first leg, that means you have to win that second leg to qualify. And that's where the pressure comes in. And even if you go from quarterfinal stages, it has been the same story. The only game where Sundowns qualified after not winning the first leg was against Yanga. And if you remember that game against Yanga, it was a close shit. It was that close. You have to take penalty shoots out. Yeah, so I think it's a matter of the team being able to really handle the pressure, especially when most of those second legs was at home. Now a lot of those second legs you're playing was at home. You're having your fans behind you. There was expectations to win. Everybody was cheering. Everybody was supporting. But now you're playing that second leg away from home. So at least that bit of pressure from the fans is off you. You're now playing, hoping to deny your opponents to win, because Ahly also have to win to qualify. And more like previous years when Sundowns were the only team who needed a win to qualify. Now Ahly have to win to qualify. Even if they get a scoring draw, they also go out. So there's a bit of pressure on Ahly too. And I think that's maybe the only advantage for Sundowns going into this second leg game.
I think for us to stand any chance of coming back with a win, even if it's a draw that progresses us to the final, I think we need to get Ribeiro in areas where he can head Al Ahly, having him in the white space near the touch line, Yes, I know he created that goal against Esperance in the quarterfinal, but having him there most of the time and having no one in between the last 2 lines of the Ahly defense and the middle field where he can head them, I think will work against us. So I think I would prefer Ribeiro in areas where he can head Al Ahly, just in between those lines, in that zone 14 area, And I think we need to move the ball much quicker through the thirds. I felt at times we moved the ball way too slow, like even when there was a chance to move into their final third, would turn it back, and start knocking it, and I thought that didn't help us. I think we shouldn't play a low block in this game. I actually think we should approach the game similar to how Ahly approached or how they set up, and how they pressed us when we were building up. They pressed us high when we were building up, and then they would know how, when, or how to retreat, once we progress through the pitch with the ball. So I think we can do the same, but don't play as many defensive-minded players as they did in that game. I think it is very important that we stay in this game for as long as possible. Do not concede in the early stages of the game. Because once we do that, we'll have. I know our boys will most likely start to panic. And then we need to give Dari as well as Rabia something to think about. Work them. As well as Hani, if he thinks about overlapping, he must think twice about overlapping, because we did nothing in that game in terms of threatening these guys. But the most important thing for Sundowns, the most important thing is that we need to shut down that guy that you think, you said is the most complete player, man, Imam Ashu. We need to make sure that he doesn't breathe, because if he breathes, we're not progressing, man. That's how I think we need to our best chances of progressing, man. I don't know if you want to add anything before we go to the score predictions.
I think perfectly said. Ali in the first league, but one thing I think will be a difference from the first league. Where you mentioned about Hani, Rabia, Dari not really getting touches. It's because they had the cover. They were playing ace defensive players, so there was the cover. The players were not really exposed. If you watched any of the times that, let's say, Sundowns got in the final third, you could see 2-3 players around, of early players around the Sundowns attacker. So there was not really that chance to expose the players and really get at them. And the second leg will bring you a different story, because this time Ali will want to come out more, express themselves more, and then attack more, instead of having maybe the mid block which they played and then playing on the counter break in the first leg. They'll sort of try to play different. But as I mentioned earlier on, I think one man who really come very different is Wani. He moves the ball very quickly. His intelligence in moving the ball also really counts a lot more in terms of how he really progresses the ball to the final third. And that has always been a problem for Sundowns to me when they're facing a team in a low block. The inability to really progress the ball quickly, especially in transitions. In the first leg, for instance, there are about 2 or 3 moments where Sundowns got early in transition. The early team is typically very organized. They are compact, difficult to break down. But when you get them in transition, that's the best time you can sort of slice them through like a hot knife through butter. But then, as you mentioned, slowly moving the ball, shooting from afar when you didn't need to, when they didn't really need to. It's all sort of disoriented the play of the game. And I don't know, though, but I think it was a similar thing also when you went to Esperance in Tunisia. There were a couple moments where there was a clear counter-attacking move, like progress the ball forward and then hit on it. But then you could see a player trying to sort of take on 2-3 players and then take a shot, when a simple, straightforward pass would give you a better chance of creating a better opportunity. So I think that must be the approach, really moving the ball quickly, especially in transition moments. In a game where Ali will come out, when you get them in transition fast, you have to move it, progress, and then catch them on surprise and create that chance.
True, man. Because, like you're saying, they will be coming at there will be spaces all over the pitch, and it's just the pity that I'm not sure about the fitness of Tapelo Morena. I think he might be the card that gets Sundowns too. He has this knack of producing in such games, even if he doesn't start, his pace, he can come on in the second half, and he might be the surprise package for Ahly, because this game will definitely be open. There will be moments where Sundowns, that long ball, diagonal ball, and catching them in transition might get us through, man. But yeah, man.
But you know one thing? So one thing is that I think it should also be the yen of Sundowns not to really concede very early in the game, because trust me, I didn't know the quality Sundowns do have. if they get an early goal, they're going to revert. They're not going to come out and then play with you for 90 minutes. They're going to revert to maybe play a mid-block system where they know that Sundowns will find it difficult to break them down. And when Ahly sort of played such kind of a system, and with Sundowns being desperate, they might even concede 3 more goals because they just catch you and then they go on a swift break and play against you. So I think it's also very important for Sundowns not to really concede early in that game, to try and hold the game as long as possible when sort of the stamina Ahly has is going down in there, getting into the second half. Then, as you mentioned, if there's maybe Morena who is fit, can come on with his pace. At that point, you have a desperate Ahly who playing at home know that they have to score. You can't play at home in front of your fans as Ahly and not score. They have to score. So they'll be desperate at then, but then they'll be tired. And then you have a player like Morena come on with his pace. It's going to really engineer a lot of problems for Ahly. But then it will be important for Sundowns really not to concede early in the game. I think they almost did that against Esperance. Very early in the game, they almost conceded. It will be important to it will be important to avoid something like that. Like really shut them down in the early minutes of the game.
Hey man, it's been a great one. But before we end it, let's go to predictions. What's your prediction in this one?
I hope you don't allow me to I hope you don't allow me to predict this game. I think one thing that personally I'm hoping for I'm hoping for a one country final. I want to enjoy the CAF Champions League final, and with how Africa is, if you are playing a final, one leg in Egypt, another leg in South Africa, it'll be difficult having to travel. I want to travel and then enjoy the final. So I'm really hoping we are either playing an all South Africa final or an all Egypt final. Like I'm praying for something like that. So at least we get to experience the final bit. So if Sundowns are winning, my prediction is that if Sundowns are winning, then Paris will win. If Ahly are winning, then that's what I'm praying for.
No, I hear you, man. With me, it's the heart says 1-1. The mind says 2-0 Ahly. I hope my mind is wrong and my heart is correct. So yeah, man. Yeah. Dennis, man, thank you very much, man. It's been an absolute pleasure, man, to do this with you, man. I'm sure Sundowns fans and football lovers will definitely enjoy this one. Guys, I'll put up Dennis's YouTube channel, Our African Football, a link on the description. Please do subscribe to the channel and do give him a follow on different social media platforms, man. And the next time you will see me probably with Rapelang should be back for this one, will be the preview of our Betway Premiership Game Week 24 fixture against who are we playing? Richards Bay next week Wednesday at Loftus Versfeld. Until next time, sharp Masandawana and everyone. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Famiso.